What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about Final Fantasy 16 because this game has turned out to be surprisingly controversial. It feels like 95% of the internet appreciates what the game is. Its story, its art, its incredibly different combat style, but 5% of the internet has this obsessive hatred for it. Now, if you have critiques, if you have problems with the game, I think that's totally fair. It's not a perfect masterpiece that you're going to be putting into museums, but I always thought that FF16, I appreciated how different it was. But some people have strangely assumed that this project has flopped. There have been a ton of articles, of rumors, of YouTube videos claiming the game has actually been a huge catastrophe for Square Enix. And now we've just actually learned those people were wrong. Square Enix has confirmed the game is a hit, but let's take a look at what they said and some salty tweets from people that are mad the game is selling great. Hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, I do feel like what actually has stirred up a lot of the negative conversation was this tweet that came out just a couple weeks back. Final Fantasy XVI's official Twitter account said, "Hey, we're happy to announce that the game has shipped and sold 3 million copies." Now, they said this after the first week. And this was the last update we got on sales numbers. They basically said, hey, 3 million copies sold in just a couple days is already actually a pretty good amount. But they never said, hey, now we've crossed 5 million or 10 million. This is the only reflection we had on the sales of FF16. And some people have taken this as a big, giant flop. There was a lot of articles basically counting down every tick of the charts saying, oh man, it actually is dropping week by week. And I think that's something that happens with a lot of games and a lot of movies and a lot of music is that there's that initial peak. And then after that, it stair steps down in popularity. Well, today, officially, from Square Enix themselves, we consider the initial sales results of FF16 to be extremely strong, and we will continue to carry a wide range of initiatives to encourage even more people to play the game, says them to IGN. Now, this is Night Sky Icon, Night Sky Prince. He is a big Final Fantasy YouTuber, and he said this is the worst day humanly possible for the people circle jerking of the idea of this game being a failure. Now, you might be saying, this can't possibly be a thing. There can't actually be dedicated haters to Final Fantasy 16. The game is, obviously fun. It's obviously gorgeous. There can't be obsessive weirdos on Twitter tweeting about how the game sucks 18 hours a day. Well, guess what? They do exist. People like this guy, Blade Strike X. This guy, all day, every day, just completely obsessively despises Final Fantasy 16, ripping his hair out. These people are all over Twitter. I don't think these people are real life. I think these are people that have not touched grass since grass was invented 1,000 years ago. I'm just being goofy here. But this guy, leave it to Night Sky Prince to constantly shill the hell out of FF16 and then proceeds to virtue signal. Literally word salad. This man is just making stuff up and it doesn't even make sense. He's clearly coping and being in denial that FF16 is doing worse than any mainline Final Fantasy game. Final Fantasy 15 is more of a milestone in sales than FF16. So, here's an interesting comparison. This data is correct. It's all accurate. I've looked at it. And this is actually, to me, kind of fascinating because I am a Final Fantasy mega fan. And what's interesting is that you can see that a lot of these games did really pop off, how much they sold in Japan. Even back on the PlayStation 1, 7, 8, and 9, selling millions of copies relatively quickly is kind of awesome. I like to see the success of it in general. But people have been comparing it to Final Fantasy 15 quite a bit, but there's a major difference that we need to take into account. Final Fantasy 16 only exists on the PlayStation 5. It's coming to PC later, but as it stands, you can only get it on the PlayStation 5. Whereas Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 15 came out on the Xbox, it came out on the PlayStation 4, and so it actually had a chance to sell and sell and sell cross-platform. It also, of course, came to PC and sold a bunch there. We're still at the beginning of the wave of how long the sales tail can be for FF16. This guy is such a weirdo. He's actually posting the freaking stock price of Square Enix. This guy is the living embodiment of I'm not mad, but then having a Wojak of you crying your eyes out. This dude is weird. Now, we actually have a bunch of Square Enix employees here talking about how they're happy with it. Full statement from Square Enix to IGN. With 38 million PlayStation 5 consoles shipped globally, sales of Final Fantasy XVI surpassed 3 million units worldwide. That is a good attach rate, taking into consideration the sales figures of the acclaimed FF7 Remake and the difference in size for the install base of PlayStation 4 at the time. These are considerably high given the install base of the PS5. This is the other part of it that a lot of people aren't realizing, which is that the PlayStation 4 has sold, 130 million consoles? So when you release the Final Fantasy VII Remake, of course, those numbers of FF7 Remake are going to be very, very high because there's way more PS4s out there. The PS4 is one of the biggest consoles of all time. So even if it ends up only selling 2 or 3% of the total amount of console owners, that's still tens of millions of copies. It's still lots and lots and lots and lots of people buying the game. So now the smaller group of PlayStation 5 owners all going out to show up cash in hand and buying the game, I think that shows, how good FF16 is, how much people were excited for it, how much people are actually engaged. Now, I do want to say, I personally believe Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is FF7 Remake Part 2, I think the sales of that game are somehow going to stomp this into the dirt. I think FF7 Remake Part 2, the trailer for it, even though we've only seen 5 minutes of gameplay and story, I think it's going to be a huge mega success for Square Enix. And I think as much as I'm happy about the success of FF16, I think the real moneymaker is going to be that. Now, I wanted to actually go to this because it is funny that there is just so many FF16 haters. There is so many people out there that are just sort of dedicated and praying for the downfall of this. And that is for a bunch of different reasons. Some people don't like the darker tone of the game. Some people don't really care for the action combat designed by the creator of Devil May Cry's incredibly fast action fighting. I think the complaints for FF16 are valid, but I also kind of feel like if you're sitting there all day, every day on social media talking about why something sucks, you probably need to get a better hobby. If you hate video games more than you love video games, that probably is a sign that you are a deeply unhappy individual, which, maybe that's just your hobby. Maybe hating FF16 to you is more fun than actually playing video games. But to me, it's a bit strange. Now, the last tweet I wanted to look at here because it's a bit salty. This is IBS. He's actually a senior influence relations manager for Square Enix. And he just tweeted this with no context. Where are all those industry insiders now? There were a bunch of people claiming, I have heard that within Square Enix, they're extremely disappointed in the catastrophic sales of FF16. It's pretty funny that all of that turned out to be complete BS. All of that was empty malarkey from weird haters. Xbox people or Nintendo people that are just pissed, or just weird PC people that are mad the game isn't on PC yet. It's nice to see the game is actually popping off. Now, I say that because two things at once. I am biased because I love Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy and Resident Evil are my two favorite things ever created. So I am happy to see the success of a series that still manages to innovate 35 years after its initial inception. It's great that they keep managing to break the mold and make new characters, new story, new jaw-dropping moments. That's cool, but additionally, I think I just like good games popping off. I think I just love the idea of good games selling. There is a lot of great stuff that just sinks to the bottom of the pond. I feel like the gaming industry, somebody's tracked it. Technically, thousands of games are released every single year now across Steam, early access, console games, random indie projects. there is just such a huge cloud of stuff that we can never keep up on. Like one person, even though I beat so many freaking games a year, I beat like 50 games a year, I could never possibly keep up. So in a way, I appreciate when a game I love becomes mainstream, where it is just so big, so ubiquitous. It's part of the zeitgeist. People are just enjoying it, drawing art of Torgal the dog, just going ballistic for it. And to me, that's really neat. I'm glad to see this game is a success. I'm glad this game didn't fail, and it gives me a bit more hope about just the future of the industry itself. Great stuff does still rise to the top. But if you hate the game, if you're choosing to not buy it, no hate on you guys either. Just maybe don't make 80 posts a day about how the game is dead. Well, do whatever you want. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.